folks, the impossible happened. Marvel and DC are getting along well enough that they made a new crossover. And not only that, they promised more crossovers in the future. I cannot explain just how big that is. Marvel and DC started having their characters crossover back in the 70s with the first Superman Spider-Man crossover that led to a sequel, and then there were more combo books after that. And it was always really, really fun and exciting to see these characters just interact with each other and just acknowledge each other's existence. Unfortunately, since these two companies have started doing crossovers again, they made it really, really easy to pick up all the previous crossovers. They've started reprinting some of them, but also they've put them in these two giant omnibus collections. Now, the first one featured all of the solo stories, and that was great, and it's cool to have that. I was really excited about this second volume, the DC vs. Marvel Amalgam Age Omnibus. Now, this is crazy, and we're using a crazy name like Amalgam, and if you look at the characters on here, it's like, what do we have here? Some kind of weird Wolverine Batman crossover thing, some Iron Man Green Lantern thingy. On the back we have a Spider-Man Superboy, and it's like, what in the world was going on here? Well, if we go ahead and just open this up and take a look. Open! If we open it up and take a look, we can see basically what's going on. So the whole Marvel versus DC thing is a little bit complicated, but I'll go ahead and just kind of summarize it up for you real quick. So basically, you have two multiverses that are both represented by like a different entity, titan, galactic thing. They call them the two brothers, and they look kind of like that. One of them is blue because that's the DC one, and one of them is red because that's the Marvel one. And they've never looked at each other ever before. This is the first time either multiverse has ever acknowledged the other. First time ever. It's never happened before. Never ever. But now these two multiverse entities have acknowledged each other, and it's causing all kinds of calamity because now they're like, well, I'm the cooler one. No, I'm the cooler one. And they're just going back and forth bickering around like that. It's the ultimate representation of kind of what the two fandoms used to be like.
From way downtown, bang!
Two universes, one ring, one survivor.
Kabang!
Hero versus Hero Ultimate Fight Night Extravaganza you won't want to miss.
Boom!
You've argued it for years, now see it settled. MMF Monday nights, Marvel versus DC Comics. 7 p.m. 8 Central pay-per-view, only on KLEX TV.
And they figured the only way we can truly settle this is if we have a big old contest. Let's get all of our characters together, let's mush them together into a world where they have to fight each other, and the universe that has the most champions gets to live and continue making comic books, and the other one gets to disappear and never make another comic book ever again. So the stakes are pretty darn high. Eventually, all the matchups happened, and the winner was decided. A multiverse is disappearing forever. Somebody's never going to be able to make comic books ever again. But through a whole bunch of cosmic shenanigans involving all kinds of different characters, rather than one of the universes disappearing forever, they ended up actually having like they made everyone do the Dragon Ball fusion dance. And then you got all kinds of weird and wacky characters made out of a DC character and a Marvel character, and sometimes a mashup of those even, into what they ended up calling the Amalgam verse. We had these super crazy characters like Doctor Strangeface, or Spider-Boy, or the Iron Lantern, and things like that. And then you've had Superman that crossed over with... Hold on. What's happened? What's going on? everyone, and welcome to Capfacts. I'm Taylor.
I'm Grant.
And today we got a really great show for you guys. We're going to talk all things Super Soldier.
Yeah, Super Soldier is one of my favorite characters. He started in the 40s, just before World War II. And it's cool to see some of the patriotic aspects that were on display even before we got involved in the war.
And, I mean, the superpowers are just way cool, right? He has all the cool superpowers all in one package. It's just fantastic stuff.
Flight, super strength, a little more, and breath, super breath, all that
yeah,
stuff.
He has heat visions, and the alien shield is way cool.
Oh yeah, obviously I love the shield.
The shield is so cool. So we all know the story by now. Jack Siegel and Jerry Simon created the character in 1940 in response to rising fascist regimes happening over in Europe, leading up to World War II.
Other than some changes to his power sets in the 80 years of his publication, it's been pretty consistent. He's gained some new stuff over the years. I mean, who hasn't in comics? But he's remained pretty consistent and always stood up for truth, justice, and the American way. He was first introduced in Super Soldier Comics and was published in that for many years. Towards the end of the Golden Age, there was a downturn in comics in general, so that was canceled. But then, years later, they decided to bring him back in Judgment League Avengers #4. It soon proved popular enough that he was given part of the book, Action and Suspense, to have his own solo stories again.
It was a brand new title, and it was really exciting, and it was also the start of a new canon that changed some things about Super Soldier's history. The writers knew that was going to get a little bit confusing, so to try and mitigate that, they reintroduced a classic Golden Age story in what is now Super Soldier Man of War #1.
Man of War #1 tells an interesting story in which there are American weapons that are being smuggled overseas. Now, while it would be easy for Super Soldier to just go in and beat everybody up and stop it, what they're really interested in is tracking down the mastermind behind it all.
So Clark Kent, Super Soldier, his civilian disguise, teams up with his best buddy and best pal and kind of PR guy Jimmy Olsen, and the two of them board this ocean liner headed towards London with what they know is the stolen materials and the stolen machinery. But like we said, we're looking for the mastermind behind this, so they're just really keeping an eye on it right now as it's going towards London to see who's going to pick it up.
And this is also a cool instance where we got a combining where Sergeant Rock and the Howling Commandos show up, saving Clark during a barroom brawl, which you wouldn't think he'd need saving that, but there's some stuff in there that they actually help out with.
Right, because he was in his Clark Kent disguise at the time. I was like, if you get hit with a chair and you don't flinch, people are going to question all kinds of things about.
Plus, he's supposed to be kind of inept in his soldier persona, so he can't suddenly beat up a whole bunch of other soldiers.
No. So they filled space, but they kind of unintentionally saved Super Soldier from a whole mess of a headache.
Well, I think it's just one of those things also where, Sergeant Rock is one of their most famous World War II characters, and while they didn't interact in the comics during the Golden Age, there was that question among fans of wouldn't these two have met, so now they're actually melding all that together.
That's what's so cool about this book is that, it is a Golden Age story. You can find the old Golden Age version of this if you have a stupid amount of money.
Yeah, so much.
Oh my gosh, those Super Soldier comics, they're no joke.
I once looked up and I decided that if I ever wanted to buy a house, I couldn't buy one.
No. Alternatively, if you had one, you could sell it and get a house.
I know which one of those I would pick, but my wife would probably be mad if I took the comic.
Jeez. But as you can see here, they modernize a lot of elements of this Golden Age story to make it just make a lot more sense for new modern readers who are reading this. They released this in the mid-90s. So
yeah, 95,
95, maybe 96, I don't know, somewhere in there. So the ocean liner makes it to London, and it shows up with all the cargo intact, and everything is going according to plan. But Super Soldier gets kind of a surprise invitation to go to a banquet with Winston Churchill, and he requests that Jimmy keep track of the cargo while he's off making public appearances, trying to raise the morale of the Allied troops. And when he gets there, we get a surprise appearance from war profiteer Lex Luthor, who was also invited to the same dinner.
And of course, he's got on his good guy persona, so nobody else at the dinner suspects him. But Clark, as always, is totally wary and convinced that he's involved somehow in the whole munitions plot.
Crazy stuff happened while Super Soldier was off at this banquet making public appearances, because now that he's kind of out of the action a little bit, the bad guys were able to take the machinery, but not only that, they kidnapped the commandos.
Because, of course, they've got to get involved in everything.
Well, yeah.
So they got captured, and it seemed like everything was over for them. But then a secret surprise shows up in Peggy Carter.
Oh, goodness. I didn't see that coming at all.
Right? I mean, it's in that classic fashion where they were able to draw her totally differently to look like a man. She was in disguise.
Yeah, it's like some French dude.
And so she was able to be disguised and come to the rescue.
But of course, things don't start looking up for our commandos very long, because as soon as Peggy rescues them and gets them weapons, Zemo just loses it on his guys. He's like, forget this plan. We're bringing out the big guns immediately. I'm sending out the war wheel. And this giant mechanical wheel with like guns on every single square inch of this thing just starts rolling in there, just suppressor and fire, moving the commandos all over the place. It tags Peggy. Like, she plays the hero move and is like, I gotta get out of here. We cannot survive this. We need to call for help. So she's rushing down the corridors of this castle. She throws a bunch of grenades, blows up a bunch of Hydra guys, shoots a bunch of Hydra guys, and gets to their radio communications room, all with a big ol' slug in her leg.
What can I say? She's awesome like that. But Peggy's still injured, and so while the contraband weapons are being shipped off, Super Soldier has to choose whether to go after those and find the person who's buying all of those, or getting Peggy to safety. And of course, being the big blue Boy Scout that he is, he chooses to save Peggy, which means the submarine gets away.
But then we get the really big reveal at the end of the book, where the contraband weapons make it to their destination. And not only, this was cool, it reveals that Lex Luthor, the war profiteer who we all thought was providing weapons for the good guys, is actually the head of Hydra. He's exactly who Super Soldier thought he was going to be. And he opens up the box, and it's the rocket that was part of Super Soldier's origin, and inside is the radioactive K metal.
But it was quite... We all knew Lex was bad, but we had no idea just how bad he was.
Like, I was always under the impression that he was just kind of like this greedy guy that was like maybe making the war last a little too long just so he can get more money from it, but head of Hydra.
Yeah. Like, he was clearly someone who didn't care about others, but I didn't think to this degree.
Holy cow. Jerk face. So it was getting kind of clear to everyone who was a part of Super Soldier, the publisher, the writers, artists, readers, and fans, that things were getting a little bit convoluted after his Golden Age history. It was like they weren't sure what to do with this book anymore. Sometimes it was a horror anthology even.
That was weird.
Very, very strange. So like it needed something of a reset. So with Secret Crisis pretty much wrapped up and over with, they realized, there's an opportunity here to reset Super Soldier a little bit. And so they did with a brand new #1 issue, self-titled. It was a huge deal.
And they were able to clear up a lot of the inconsistencies before by explaining that after Super Soldier got frozen in the ice after the war, there were other people acting as Super Soldier because the government don't want to deal with the crisis of losing their superhero while the war was still going on. And so with that, there's a lot of cool stories with other people who acted as Super Soldier, some of them good, some of them bad, but that's a video for a whole nother
That's a different video.
But so because of this, the Super Soldier #1 manages to start off just at a clean start and is a great place to jump into for the character. So this comic starts us off with Jimmy Olsen giving kind of a recap of Super Soldier's origins. Now, there are, of course, a lot of different versions of the origins out there, and some of them get a little weird. Some of them have them getting alien material from spacecraft. Some of them have him getting supercharged by the sun. And so this issue actually combines a lot of those together, where yes, they found the alien material and put that into him, but then used the solar rays to kind of supercharge it and actually make it stick, where with other experiments they didn't do that and it ended poorly.
Beginning of World War II, the world stood at a crossroads. Global conflict had reshaped nations. Technology had outpaced ethics. And the idea of a hero
was being redefined. It was during this moment of uncertainty that scientists working in a secret lab under the metropolis of New York City started a secret government project that would cost $2 billion, $35 billion in today's money, and redefine what we knew about life on Earth, as well as life beyond our planet. Scientists began to wonder about the possibilities of a super soldier when a crashed rocket was found in the fields of Kansas containing a bizarre alien DNA sample. Early lab tests had shown the DNA sequencing, when combined with solar radiation, unlocked impressive superhuman abilities. And so the first ingredient was acquired, but the second was somehow less straightforward. Professor Hermann Ernstgein, a German refugee to America and chief architect of the Super Soldier program, believed that the answer to balancing the Super Soldier enhancements and creating a symbol the country could get behind could be found in the weak Kansas farmhand Clark Kent.
Kent was a bizarre choice for the experiment. He applied to the army no less than 12 times, and each time he was rejected. But Ernstgein saw the passion and the spirit of the young man, and he knew if anyone was going to make this experiment a success, it was going to be Kent.
On July 4th, 1940, Clark Kent would enter the laboratory and emerged as a symbol of American enthusiasm. Super Soldier.
So origin was great for melding all those things together and giving us what will hopefully be a nice clear origin for the rest of his history.
And hopefully we never go back and change it ever again.
No.
And they never mess with it in a movie or TV show or cartoon or whatever.
No,
it's just
perfect. Leave it as it is.
We're done. After Jimmy Olsen summarizes our hero's origins for us, he also goes into the exact moment when Super Soldier disappeared. And this was big. This was brand new information.
Yeah.
Where instead of just continuing on, what happened was he fought the Ultra Metallo robot that Hydra had created that was powered by the K-metal that was discussed in Man of War #1, which is probably why they re-released it right before this book.
That makes sense to catch people up on it, because it was one of the more obscure parts of his history.
Yeah.
And so it was a good way to bring it up. And a cool way to bring back something from the Golden Age. I just love when they do stuff like that to bring back old things into the new histories.
Great stuff. So they bring that back up, and they revealed that in a fight against the Ultra Metallo robot, Super Soldier and the robot both fell into the Atlantic Sea and were just frozen for decades and decades and decades until they were thawed out. Of course, we saw that Super Soldier was revived in JLA #4, and within the pages of action and suspense, he was able to get his life back together. And this book right here, Super Soldier #1, kind of sets the new status quo, where now he's working as a reporter at the Daily Planet with his...
Under Jimmy now, which is
Under
weird,
Jimmy.
where he used to be, I guess Jimmy's superior. I guess he wasn't his superior, but he was definitely the one in charge between the two.
Yeah, but I mean, time marches on. When you don't march on, time will. And so he became the editor of the Daily Planet, and now Clark Kent is a reporter there with his sometimes rival, sometimes crush, sometimes girlfriend, Sharon Carter.
I mean, isn't every strong man attracted to another strong woman? That's just my opinion.
Yeah. What do you think her connections are with Peggy Carter? Do you think that was on purpose, or?
I'm not sure. That feels like a thing that could be, but I don't think they were that worried about it at the time when they were creating it. I think it was just initially two characters with a similar name.
Sure.
But that feels like something that someone like Mark Waid would connect later on.
Yeah. Which I guess he was a big part of these books, so...
Yeah, so maybe he is laying the foundation for something. We'll have to find out.
We'll have to find out in Super Soldier #2. Excited for when that comes out.
And so that's where the story picks up, where we find that Jimmy has been captured by Hydra in order to get information about Super Soldier. Of course, Jimmy is resourceful, even though he's not super himself, and he manages to get away and tell Clark. It gives him a cryptic clue of Washington at 4. So, of course, Clark knows that he has to go and stop Hydra. Leaves, does the epic shirt open reveal that my wife hates when I do to my shirts. And he goes off and manages to decrypt the clue, because it's not actually... I don't want to spoil it, because it is a cool little reveal. But
yeah.
He does manage to find the Hydra base and find the new revitalized Ultra Metallo.
Lex Luthor just kind of pops out of nowhere, and his skin is kind of like shrink wrapped to his skull, so he has like this weird greenish skull thing going on.
It wasn't enough that he was bald. He's now
he's
shrink wrapped lettuce.
Ugh. and he's all like, yeah, because I was around the K metal too much, and so now I'm all like scarred and deformed, but that's okay, you can join me. And yeah, the Ultra Metallo robot, it's still alive. And it grabs Super Soldier, just kind of throws him around Washington, D.C. for a while. And every time Super Soldier gets close to it, he just, like, weakens.
Yeah, because we realized that the Material K weakens Super Soldier. And as they're fighting, he's getting weaker and weaker. But then there are random, like, bouts of strength that happens, and he's confused by it until he realizes that it's lead in. He like crashed into a construction site and there's lead in the pipes, which I thought we were done with that. I thought that was
well, he crashes into an older building.
Oh, that was what happened.
It's an old building and it had lead pipes in it.
Probably had asbestos too. I wonder if that had anything to do with
it.
He gets the pipe, throws it through Ultra Metallo, and manages to basically skewer and lock up the K material to defeat Ultra Metallo.
So the robot just falls apart in front of the White House, and Super Soldier grabs the pipe with the K metal in it, throws it on the ground at Luthor's feet, and is like, you know what? I'm sick of your crap. It's taken 50 years to take you down, and it's happening today. And grabs Lex Luthor and hauls his butt off to jail.
Finally, some justice.
And justice for Jimmy, too, because Jimmy got to give the report on Lex Luthor's comeuppance, which he mentioned early on in the book he felt kind of guilty that he lied about the death of Super Soldier to try and keep morale up.
Yeah, and so this must have been really great for Jimmy, who obviously has not liked Lex Luthor since World War II. Can you imagine holding a 50-year grudge against someone and then finally getting just everything out in the open?
Oh, that would just... catharsis. Now, of course, the legacy of this book just continues onward into where we are at today, where we've had Super Soldier, the animated series. Chris Cavill played him in the cinematic universe.
Yeah, I've really liked his portrayal. It's probably the best one since George Brown played him, in my opinion. Like, one big one that's going to be coming out soon is a lot of fans have questions about Jimmy, where he's, getting up in age, and even with the flexible timeline of the Amalgam universe, he probably shouldn't still be around. So there's some interesting theories about what's going to be happening with him and some Winter Soldier storyline.
Hey everybody, and look at that! The multiverse has reset to how it's supposed to be.
Thank goodness, that was a wild universe.
Crazy stuff. Anyway, guys, this is Grant. He's from Capfacts. He's kind of the greatest person ever.
So you're pretty great.
Well, I love having you on the channel. This is fantastic. Thank you very much for sticking around.
Well, I was happy to, because, I just love, I love the Amalgam universe, and I wish there was more of it. We've had some crossovers recently with Marvel and DC, but I would really love to have the Amalgam universe back, specifically Super Soldier, though the other stuff is cool too.
Well, I don't know if you picked up the Batman Deadpool crossover, but they did have an Amalgam story in the back of it where they had it was a crossover between Lobo and Wolverine, I think.
Okay, yeah. I know I did get the issue, but I didn't pay attention to much beyond the Captain America Wonder Woman story.
What'd you think of that? I really want to know your thoughts about that real quick.
I thought it was good. I thought it was too short, was really the thing. I want a whole issue of Captain America with somebody else. So that was my only complaint. But I think Wonder Woman and Cap are a good matchup.
But in that Lobo Wolverine Amalgam thing in the back, they do reference Super Soldier, and apparently Super Soldier fought him at one point.
Okay, I'll have to reread the issue.
But that's all they really mention is that super soldier does exist and
Yeah.
he fought this guy. So I guess we really don't have all that many confirmed appearances of super soldier, but like I kind of love this, and I'd love to talk about this for just a second here, just how much lore they packed into these two issues.
Yeah. They really did. Like, there's so many Easter eggs, and even in the letters page, which they put in one of the issues, I thought that was fantastic, where they just made it seem like there were real fans for this universe and a real world history. I just thought that was way cool that they went into the gimmick that hard.
We talked a bit about this off camera when we were doing the bit. It was fun, and they made it really consistent on their end, but it meant that, like, talking about the Amalgam universe, you're kind of talking about a fictional universe within a fictional universe that was created in a fictional real universe within a real universe.
Yeah, there's just so many layers to it. And it's like you have fictional creators creating fictional things in a fictional, it's fictional all the way down.
All the way down. So I want to know, though, like, how well do you think they executed that gimmick? What do you think of the real world creator gimmick?
So I thought it was cool. Like, they had some mention of the super soldier stories from the 40s, and then that there had to be a break for a while. And I think that's a cool detail, because that is, in my opinion, an essential part of the Captain America real life story, to have that break in publishing after World War II. So I thought that was cool. And and similar to the thing we were just talking about with the Wonder Woman Captain America story, my main issue is that there's not more of it. You know, I'd love to see even just hints of them talking about, like, a version of the Nomad storyline or the Captain. Like, how do you do that when it's combined with Superman?
And that's one thing, is that, like, both of these characters have such a really deep and, like, very interesting lore built up over, at the time the book was released, just over 50 years, I guess. But I agree. I would love to see more of it, or at least more teases of it. Like, show me what some of these really iconic stories with these two characters look like. Captain America and Superman Silver Age are so different tone-wise, and I would love to see, like, how they reconcile that.
And I think an advantage they have with the Amalgam universe is, since you're building off the already existing universes, you could probably get away with a lot less than you would need to in an actual story. Like, if you just said something that was in reference to, you know, like Super Nomad or something, then we kind of get what's going on, and you could tease out a lot of story potential. So you'd just be able to look at those hints and say, okay, if they combined this element from Superman and this element from Captain America, it probably would have looked like this.
Right. And we kind of teased it a little bit near the end. We kind of made up our own, like, continuing history. Yeah. But what would be, like, the story you would be most interested to see?
So I think, like I said, I think the Nomad storyline would be the number one for me, because that is one of the biggest moments in Captain America history, where he moves very clearly away from the idea of being a representative of the government. And so that'd be interesting to have that combined with Superman's story, where I don't know, you know, he doesn't have that specific a tie to the government, but it'd be interesting to see how they can maybe incorporate elements of his history with that.
Sure. My first thought with that would probably be in, like, the later 80s, there was a story where Superman's, like, whole persona got taken over by this thing called the Krypton Man, whose whole gimmick was, I'm giving up on Earth and I'm going to bring Krypton back on Earth. And I could see that amalgamating into something really interesting.
That would be cool. And then my other thing would probably be the Winter Soldier storyline. Like, I don't know who they would incorporate for that, because my initial thought for the person from Superman's universe would be Jimmy Olsen, but I think in the Superman or the super soldier story, he was still around in the present day. So I don't know who they'd pick for it, but
Well, by this point, they'd probably have to reboot it because there's no way Jimmy is still alive.
that's true. And I guess Winter Soldier wasn't a deal when the Amalgam universe was created, so they wouldn't have had to think of that at all, even.
No, and I think that right there is probably the biggest reason why I would love to see the Amalgam universe come back is that it's been a billion years since then, like close. It's
it
been
was
around
the
what, 40
90s,
years?
So
No,
I
not
think
40, 30.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's been around 30 years since Amalgam happened, and a lot of comic book has happened in the last 30 years.
Yeah.
And like both of these characters kind of had like a big resurgence in pop culture, and like they've gotten a lot more attention, and I
Yeah.
just would love to see that come back in some way, like reinterpret the Amalgam universe.
Right. What are some stories you think from Superman's side that you'd like to see brought in?
Obviously the biggest one, and this one, Amalgam dates after this, but they don't really talk at all about the death and return of Superman.
Mm-hmm.
That happened 3 years before Amalgam did. Superman, even in the Marvel versus DC crossover, he still had like the longer mullet hair
Right.
from that arc. They didn't highlight the death and return of Superman, and now that we've had a death and return of Captain America as well, I think it would be really cool to find a way to combine those two, where like, you know, maybe Superman was killed by, in the Amalgam universe, it would be Dr. Doomsday.
Okay.
And then after that, Lex Luthor as the Green Skull tries to take over his body so that he can be all like super soldiery later.
And yeah, because I can see that, because Superman did, like, he was basically just super unconscious and had to get exposed to radiation for long enough, right?
Yeah, basically.
So like with Cap, he was like put into a time stasis thing. So I could see a way that those could get combined where they did something to delay his regeneration so that Green Skull could take over.
Green Skull. Oh my goodness. All right. Now, the next question, and I think this is an important one to bring up. From your perspective as a Captain America fan, how do you think the lore split between the two was? Like, do you think it was evenly, or do you think it was off center?
I mean, it did feel heavy on the Superman side of things. Like, they had character references. And I guess having the Super Soldier Man of War take place in World War II, that feels more specific to Cap, even though I know Superman was around for that. I feel like the idea of having a World War II story is a Captain America thing, especially now where we're getting so far away from World War II.
Yeah.
Because I think now, canonically, Superman wouldn't have been in World War II.
Yeah, not even close.
Yeah.
He's only ever in World War II on like very special occasions, like like some guest star shows up and writes a one issue one-off where he's in Germany doing something.
Yeah.
Yeah, I noticed that too, and I feel like that's probably one of the weaker elements of it. Is like Super Soldier, his identity name is still just Clark Kent.
Yeah.
Jimmy Olsen is just Jimmy Olsen, and there's a lot of tropes in there that I noticed in like Superman Elseworld stories, where like one of the more popular ones, and we saw this in Man of War, is that Lois is always paired up with Lex Luthor.
Yeah.
And would that happen is like, okay, we're not even like doing any kind of amalgam of like any other character. We aren't doing like a Alexander Strucker here, or Lois Carter, where it's just Lois Lane is there, and so is Lex Luthor, and they're all just the Superman supporting cast.
Right. And I think that's just because, if I have my timeline right, that was a rough time for Captain America sales. Like, the 90s were not kind to Cap. Like, there's good stories in there, especially when we get to like the Mark Waid stuff, which would have been around this time, but the sales were not there. So I'm sure they just thought we're gonna pick stuff that people, pick the Superman stuff because he's more popular. Whereas I think now there'd be a lot more Captain America fans to please. So I think if we redid it, it'd be a lot more even split.
Yeah, and that's why I'm saying I would love to see them revisit this. I don't know if I'd even want the same Super Soldier. I'd say let's keep the Amalgam, let's keep Super Soldier, but let's feel okay rebooting it,
right?
Because it felt very much like I was just reading a Superman story where he had a slightly different costume.
I will say though, I really like the costume, especially the shield he gets. Like that, incorporating the Superman S as the shield, I think is the best design decision they could have made.
Yeah, I agree. I think that was fantastic. I liked it a lot better than, say, if they gave him the traditional Cap shield and put the S on his chest.
Yeah.
I think it was a lot more unique. And it raises some interesting questions on, like, if this was the real universe and the stories did continue this way, you have, like, all of these American symbolism stories on the Cap side. How would that change if, he is this American symbol, but he is using an alien shield,
Right. And just the alien connection in general. Like, he wasn't an alien in the Amalgam universe, but the fact that he got his powers from alien DNA would bring up some interesting points. And I think that's something that they could build into with the Green Skull, kind of like they did in the Superman movie, where they were basically hurting his public reputation by highlighting his alien nature and making it seem negative. And so you wouldn't do that the same in the Amalgam universe, but you could still have him being like, we don't even know what this stuff will do. He's getting mind controlled by the alien DNA put in him.
What would you say were your favorite parts of these stories, though?
I think one of my favorite things was in the overall, just the flashback to the Man of War series, which was a flashback into World War II. I think that overall is just a fun thing. And like I was saying earlier, I think it's something that is kind of uniquely Cap to go back to those stories. Is a thing we see a lot in one shots and stuff. And also, I just really, this is small, but I really like how they did the abbreviation of someone calls him SS instead of Super Soldier or anything. And I feel like that one made it really feel like something that was written in a prior time, because we don't see that as much, but I feel like in the stuff from the 60s and 70s, they were constantly abbreviating names and giving nicknames to characters in order to mix things up in the speech bubbles. So, that's a small detail, but it's a fun one that I liked.
Yeah. Speaking of Man of War, you brought up at one point when we were just talking about this, there is not a point where Super Soldier throws the shield.
Yeah, that is something.
Yeah, which on, like, design wise, it's like if he did throw the shield would just fly through things. And it is pointy. But then I had the thought, if you remember, we didn't really talk about this in the summary. In Man of War, they had this ship that was about to hit the iceberg.
Mm.
He should have thrown the shield and destroyed the iceberg with it. That would have been cool.
That would have been cool. I think also you really need to go into detail of what the shield is for at this point, because it kind of doesn't make sense for someone who's bulletproof to have a shield. So you'd have to, I guess you could say it's a symbolic thing, but in that case, like, you should still have something it can be used for.
Well, I know in a lot of the Superman books, they make the claim that his cape is bulletproof, and it allows him to, like, carry like a wider wingspan of like bullet protection if he's protecting like a group or something. But I just by virtue of it not being as big, the shield doesn't that doesn't justify the shield to me. And it's like And I think you're just going to kind of run into those problems when you're amalgamating a story like this, because it's like you're combining two very different kinds of origins. You need to keep the iconic bits of both. You have to have the Superman shield in there somehow. Cap has a shield, but you're absolutely right. What does the shield even do?
Yeah. But going back to what I like about these stories, I think overall, like, the best thing about these stories is the fact that you just get to see the amalgamation. Like, the stories by themselves are good, but since they are so limited, that's not what you're going to them for. Like, you're going for this fun mashup of things to see, like, what would it have been like if Super Soldier were in World War II, and how he teams up with Sergeant Rock and the Howling Commandos instead of Nick Fury and the Howling Commandos. And so, like, I do like the stories, but the storylines themselves are not what stands out in my mind for these.
I think I agree. Like I said, I kind of compare it to like these Elseworld stories, and like sometimes you come across an Elseworld story that is really gold story wise, but you're really going to them for the gimmick. Right. It's like, in this one, Batman's living in the 1800s and he fights Jack the Ripper. That's neat. Honestly, it's an okay story, but it's fun because it's a completely different setup.
Yeah.
And I feel the same way with Super Soldier, in that, they're decent enough comic books, but the fun of it is the gimmick that, like, this is a combination of two characters, and beyond being a combination, like, you have like this whole real world fictional history, as well as hints that like this was an ongoing timeline. This has always been the case. It's a fun gimmick.
Right. It's basically an issue of all Easter eggs.
Yeah. So anyway, guys, thanks so much for hanging out with us and checking out this video. You should go check out Capfacts. Like, tell me about Capfacts. Tell us why we should subscribe.
Yeah. So you should subscribe if you love Captain America and want to learn more. Like, I am very hyper focused on the character, and so 3 times a week, barring issues, I'll post a fact about Captain America, whether something in the comics or something regarding the history of comics. I've also done a few presentations at our local Comic-Con that go into the deeper history of Captain America and some of those characters. So if you like Captain America, come check it out.
And seriously, folks, like, it's some of the deepest stuff you're ever going to see on any superhero. Like, I found you on, I think it was your first presentation. It was at FanX. It was about the history of America correlating with the stories.
Captain America.
Yeah, that was cool. Blew my mind. I found you on TikTok and it was amazing. And I'm so glad that we actually got to like chat and meet up afterwards. And like, so seriously, go check out Capfacts. You're going to feel way smarter after you watch a bunch of videos. I don't think there's anyone on the planet who knows more about Captain America than you.
Thanks. I think there might be a few, but I do have to say I'm probably in the top 20.
I can accept that. So go check out Capfacts, and if you like what you saw in Comic Crash, make sure you subscribe here to get more like really deep dives into the lore and to the stories of just some really great and cool comic books. But thank you again, Grant, for showing up, and thank you everyone else.
Thanks for having me.
All right. And until next time, thank you for joining us. Have a great day, and remember to always be your best self.